Howdy, folks. Hope you're doing well today. I've got a great show for you. We're going to talk about my top five favorite childhood toys. And then I'm going to take a trip down memory lane in response to a comment that a coworker, an ex-coworker of mine, Vicky, posted the other day. Show you guys a little bit about what it was like for me growing up in Indonesia. Now, this is going to be focused more on what I'd like to do in my spare time, how I would play, how I would just be a kid. So this is not going to be a cultural exploration or anything like that. Perhaps we can do that with a different episode. But yeah, this is all about being a kid, what it's like to play with toys and friends and things like that. Today's show is brought to you by Greeneration Foundation. This is a charity that does work in Indonesia to educate people about environmental degradation, what they can do to manage waste services, and generally just tries to bring about better practices for containing waste and controlling litter and pollution in a part of the world that really needs it. So pop over there. It's greeneration.org. You can donate, just educate yourself about it maybe a little bit. But yeah, this is a very, very cool endeavor. All right, so without further ado, let's start the show. Okay, so the first thing we're doing today is our top five list. My cousin Amy asked me what was my favorite toy when I was a kid. So Adam's top five favorite toys were number five, He-Man. The He-Man Masters of the Universe cartoon is something we talked about in a previous episode, but this was in that era of the 80s when these cartoons were really meant to promote these toys and to get these things off the shelf. I really liked these. Prince Adam, He-Man, all of his buddies. They were a lot of fun to play with. Super colorful, a little bit bigger action figures. And, you know, if you're a young boy, just what it's all about right here. At number four, we've got the Star Wars toys. These were great. Loved them. I think we bought these off maybe the Berts or someone in Indonesia. But yeah, all these figures, the Luke Skywalkers and Han Solos, Boba Fett's, Darth Vader's, plus the bigger things. I used to have an AT-AT, an AT-AT, whatever you call that. That was a blast to play around with. I eventually ended up taking it apart just to see if I could put it back together. That's never a good idea when you're a kid. But these are fun toys. Star Wars toys, great classics. Now at number three, I'm going to go with Care Bears. So I was a big fan of the Care Bears cartoon. I think we all were. Don't really have any pictures of them, but here's one that managed to stick around. These are fun. The thing about the Care Bears is they weren't just stuffed animals. And they were a lot of fun to play around with just because of that mentality. Dave Chappelle does a good bit about the Care Bear stare and how powerful that was to just stare things down with love. Now at number two on this list, I've got Voltron. This is another great cartoon. Could have been on my top five list. It was right there. You had five different robots or vehicles or mechs. I'm not really sure what you would call them. So this thing came apart. They would go off, do their thing, come back together. If it got really bad, they'd all connect to create the large Voltron character. But he was a lot of fun to play with. All right, so number one, big reveal here. We've got G.I. Joe. This was an amazing toy to play with when you were a kid. The action figures themselves were super pliable. You could do pretty much anything with them. You could melt them down real easy, blow them up. They became sort of a collector's item eventually. Just looking at the boxes was a lot of fun. You could walk down to the store and pick one out, read the back of it, to get excited about new action figures coming out. So I really enjoyed playing with the G.I. Joes. This is a multi-generational thing. They've been around forever. Yes, G.I. Joe, number one. All right, so now let's take a little trip down memory lane. Toys are a lot of fun, but at the end of the day, they're not the most important thing in life. So first of all, I'll give you a little geography lesson here. When I was one, my family moved to Indonesia. My dad worked in oil. So we moved to Balikpapan, which is on East Kalimantan, which is on the island of Borneo. Balikpapan has been an oil town since before World War II. There were a lot of companies there. So we were there with a lot of other expats, workers, local workers as well, Indonesians, great people. But we lived just up the coast here in a compound called Batacan. And this is where I really spent a lot of my time when I was a kid running around and playing, when I wasn't at school or in town. The plant and animal life in Indonesia, on Borneo in particular, here right around Balikpapan, was really crazy. You know, you're talking about living in the jungle on the coast. There were snakes, lizards, all kinds of crazy creatures, crazy insects. But the flora in particular, the plants were amazing and a lot of fun to play around with. When I was a kid, we'd all just like get together and pick up random sticks or bean pods, chunks of palms, things like that. Coconuts. Coconuts are a great toy. Given that we lived right there on the beach, I spent a bunch of time swimming, hanging out on the beach, playing with old, weird wooden vessels that we would find, just getting into lots of trouble out there. This wasn't the most pristine beach in the world, though at times, of course, it was gorgeous, and still the beauty is profound. But it was kind of a rough, rugged little area there, so we had to watch out for certain things, sea snakes and just stuff that could hurt little kids. But we tended to just get out there and run amok. Eventually, they had to build a seawall on part of the beach to protect it from erosion. They built this like large cement blockade out there a little ways. So on really stormy days, we would swim out to that, and you could jump off the other side of it into the oncoming waves. It was a lot of fun. I was very lucky as a kid to be able to grow up in this area. And we lived here for 8 years. So as I got older, became more focused on hanging out with friends, school stuff, projects like that, listening to music, whatever. But yeah, what a wonderful place to live. The Indonesian people are incredible. There are a few other things, that I remember more so than toys. Say my sister and I used to play on our papazon all the time. Great piece of furniture. So yeah, thanks a lot for that question, Vicky. Yeah, and we'll get into a little bit more moving forward. It's a kid-oriented show, so I wanted to keep it light today. We'll talk about the cultures in Indonesia, day-to-days of living in that culture. Also Egypt, I'm sure that'll come up. So that's going to be it for today, guys. I hope you're staying safe and healthy. Yeah, we'll see you next time. We'll see you tomorrow. But that's about it. So I'll just kind of play you guys off with a couple of pictures that I haven't shown you yet. And that'll be it. See you soon.